Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the African Music Library Instrument Podcast, a podcast where we discuss variety of African instruments and also talk about those that double down as genres. I'm your host, Kosiso Nwachukwu, and today we are exploring the enduring magic of the Mbira. The Mbira, also known as the thumb piano, is a musical instrument with deep roots in the Shona and Dembele people of Zimbabwe's culture, as well as other ethnic groups in the southern, eastern, central, and western Africa. Join us today to discuss this magical instrument. Ugandan recording artist and instrumentalist Aliddeki Brian and Mozambican Mbira player and composer Muha. Please say hello to our listeners.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. It's such a pleasure and an honor to share the love of the Mbira and continue learning about this wonderful instrument, one of our ancestral instruments. And yeah, thank you for creating this space for us.
Aliddeki.
Hi guys, I'm looking forward to sharing a few things here and there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad to have you guys on board with us. Looking forward to the discussion. So let's start with the history. So my first question is to Aliddeki. You know, the mbira is one of the most popular instruments in the continent, among other percussion instruments. Can you tell us about this instrument, its origin, history, and any myth that might be surrounding the instrument?
First, how you call it Mbira. Here in Uganda, we appreciate it as calling it Akogo. And yes, there are a few differences between the Akogo and the Mbira. First of all, where did it come from? Years back, the Akogo or the thumb piano started from West Africa.
This instrument originally settled very well in the eastern part of Uganda. And who were the innovators that really thought a lot about this instrument were called the artisans. And because of the Akogo, they got the Akogo, and they used to sit in a circle singing songs, talking about anything that happened through the day. Started creating a dance from these instruments which they created, the Akogos, that now they created a dance called the Akogo dance or Lukeme. I don't know whether you get my point. So Akogo originally came and also made or led to the dance called Lukeme as the most traditional dance from the eastern part of Uganda of the Itesoids. It means the main instrument for Itesoids, if you are playing and if you are doing a dance Itesoid and you don't play the Akogo, they will even at a point, because that's a respect, that's where it came from. So the instrument also brought in the dance called Lukeme or the Akogo dance.
Thank you so much for that insight into the history of this magical, beautiful instrument, mbira. My next question goes to Muha. Knowing that African musical instruments have cultural importance and deep significance in its people's history and traditions, and I'm sure the mbira is no different. What role does the mbira play in the Shona culture?
Yeah, thank you for that insightful answer, Aliddeki. It's very interesting to hear your perspective on the origins of the instrument. I've done most of my research on this instrument when it relates to where I'm from in Mozambique. And of course, music in Africa And in Mozambique, similarly, we have a very, very deep connection to music. Like Aliddeki said, we use music and musical instruments to go with our sheep and with our herd. The pastoralists used to walk with their livestock and they would play the mbira. In Mozambique, we have different kinds of mbiras. We have the mbira nyunga nyunga, we have the matepe mbira, and these mbiras were played by different people. Spiritually, the mbira has a big, big significance for the Ndao people. Usually, who plays the mbira? It's our healers, our traditional healers. And with the talent and the skill of playing the mbira, you also were gifted with other insights about life, about how different herbs could cure certain illnesses. And the Mbira player also had the power to summon specific spiritual entities. I remember reading a book and I saw a passage where they would say that in Zimbabwe there is this Mbira ritual where all of the Mbira players from the tribe would play Mbira the whole night long. And throughout this ceremony, there will be Mbira players, there will be percussionists, and the Mbira was not stopped being played. And groups of people played, and whenever someone got tired, they would be replaced by another player. But there was a minimum number of people who needed to stay playing the instrument, and eventually one of the players would embody the spirit of the Mbira, would embody the spirit of the tribe. And once this happened, this person had connection to the spiritual world and could pass down knowledge and insights. The Mbira has different kind of connections to us culturally. The Mbira Nyunga Nyunga that I play is not so intertwined with spiritual connection or spiritual actualization. It's actually more about entertainment and learning how to make music and play music. Nyunga Nyunga translates to sparkly, sparkly. It's one of the first kind of one of the most basic setups of the mbira. Like Aliddeki was saying, one of the first mbiras that were played, they were playing a pentatonic scale. The mbira Nyunga Nyunga doesn't fall from this. It started with 13 keys and has evolved to have 15. But this instrument, particularly culturally, is more related to entertainment and about music knowledge, about learning music. So I feel like Mbira has a huge potential to connect us to our ancestry and to connect us to our musicality as Africans. And it has kind of different layers and levels that can make it relatable and like reachable for a big part of the population, whether you're just starting out to play, whether you're more inclined to spiritual traditions and healing, or whether you just are curious about sound. So that's my kind of understanding of our relationship to the instrument, especially when it comes to Mozambican culture.
Thank you very much, Muha, for that insight. It was quite enlightening. I think I relate to what you were saying because we come from different cultures and we have different instruments that are quite significant to different cultures that are found in Africa. But one thing you mentioned, which I think I would like you to elaborate more, is you made me mention of having a different perspective of the origin, a Mozambican perspective of the origin of the Mbira, different from what Aliddeki explained to us earlier. Can you shed more light on that?
Yeah, of course. So, the Mbira, as we know it in Mozambique, is highly correlated to the Zambezi River. If you if you look at the start of the Zambezi River, where it begins in Congo, and it flows down to Angola, Zambia, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and ending up in Mozambique, all of these different countries have a version of the Mbira. And before we had the Iron Revolution, we were producing biras that look much like the ones we have today, like with a board, but instead of using iron, we were using bamboo keys or tines, as we call them. And with the great Bantu migration south, our technologies improved and we started exploring with different ways of making them better, ways that are more durable, that they could resonate for longer and louder. And the blacksmiths, together with the Iron Age, started experimenting with iron keys. And this is where the mbira, the matepe, and the first variation of the nyunga nyunga in Mozambique came to be. Today, the mbira that I play is a collaboration between Mozambique and Zimbabwe. In the mid 20th century, a great Zimbabwean scholar called Jairus Jiri, he came to Mozambique, central Mozambique in Manica, and he took the instrument to Zimbabwe and he continued researching it. And eventually, Dumisani Mairaire found that instrument, the 13 key mbira from the Ndau people in Manica, and he added an extra key. And this instrument in around the 60s or 50s was introduced in the Zimbabwean educational curriculum. And for me, reconnecting with this instrument, I got to know the instrument through a Zimbabwean friend, a colleague. And when I went to research, I realized wow, this instrument actually comes from home. It comes from the Ndau people. It comes from it's our instrument. And it's so sad that the first years that I got the instrument and I was showing it to family and friends, if you weren't really into like being into traditional music, or if you didn't have very deep knowledge of African music, it was very unlikely that you would not know the instrument back then, the same way I didn't know. um, and furthermore, now we have a lot more people picking up the mbira, especially the mbira nyunga nyunga in Mozambique, which is very, very heartwarming to see the instrument making such a comeback in these modern times. But it was almost really extinct, yeah, in Mozambique for a long time.
Thank you so much for that. It was nice hearing a different perspective from someone from a different culture entirely. So it's quite enlightening, and I see the connection with what you said about the Congo River. So interestingly, the Mbira is said to have the power to heal. Aliddeki, can you throw more light on that?
To me, I would say yes, it does. It does heal. It does spiritually, it heals. Mentally, it heals. Our spiritual mothers, grandfathers, and whatsoever. There were tunes being played through the Mbira and the Kogo. For example, in Soland, they have one song goes tan 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 tira o monipolo lakula. It's okay. To me, the understanding of healing, it's in many ways, honestly. Yeah, that's how I would say.
Thank you so much, Aliddeki. I think I can also attest to that, because the Mbira, I feel like the Mbira has the power to banish stress and also relax the mind. Moving on in our discussion, let's talk about classification and categorization of this instrument. African instruments that are usually classified into four categories: the aerophones, membranophones, chordophones, and idiophones. Under what category do we place the Mbira and why, Muha?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that Mbira is placed in the idiophone category because, of course, the idiophone, when you think of an idiophone, you think of like an instrument that is shaken as a whole to produce a sound or scraped like a bell or a cymbal. But the Mbira is actually part of the lamellophone family of instruments where you have the tines that are plucked and they vibrate to produce a sound. The mbira, as I see it, is a percussive instrument, although it produces a melodic sound, but in its execution, it's more of like a percussive mindset. So yeah, I would say that the mbira is a idiophone in the lamellophone family. Yeah.
I agree because I also feel like it's more of a plucked idiophone because it's also stands as a percussive instrument. So thank you for that. My next question also goes back to you, Muha. How do you identify an Mbira when you know the physical attributes and what role does each part of the instruments play in the production of sound? You know, you made mention of the lamellophone and Mbira having a tongue to block. So, what role does each part of this physical attributes that you're going to mention play in the production of sound?
Sure. That's a great question. I think we could start with the wooden with the wooden piece where the all of the keys are attached to. This part is very important for the instrument because this is the part that basically collects the vibrations and serves as almost like a first resonator of the instrument. It amplifies the vibrations, allowing us to feel them and hear them louder. So this wooden resonator is called the jiguaira in Shona. And then we have the tines, the keys. Each of the key is made of steel, and this steel, depending on the thickness of the steel, you have to hammer it. And hammering the steel, it's not about using force. It's about a very delicate technique where you almost let gravity do most of the work. And as you're hammering the steel, it starts shaping into the key that we see. And depending on how much you hammer the key, it starts lowering the pitch. And when the mbira maker is making a mbira, usually he or she has a mbira nearby, and they confirm that they're hammering just the right amount to get the specific note, the specific tone. This part of the instrument, I think, is where the all the magic and the ingenuity of the instrument comes because it's a very precise and delicate science, and it's not something that one can learn overnight to manufacture the tines, these mbira keys. And then you have basically the gadziko. The gadziko is a piece of metal that comes underneath the tines, and it basically serves as a border between the wooden resonator, the first box, the first wooden piece, and the tines, and it creates some space so that the keys are almost in the air, like floating. This is what allows you to be able to pluck the keys and allows the keys not to be kind of like flat on the wooden board. If they were flat, you would not be able to pluck the key. There would be no space for the key to vibrate. So this part of the instrument is very important. And then you have the mutandi that holds the keys from the top and it applies pressure. So you basically have to get your keys in order, place your mutande on top, but not do not tighten it as you're making the mbira. Only once you've finished getting the notes, the right notes, you got the pitch as close as possible, then you can tighten your mutande. We use these I don't know how to call this thing in English. It's this kind of metal hook that you we used to fixate the steel, the shapas. We call them shapas at home, the steel roof, and it takes like a not a screw, but I don't know what this thing is called in English. Uma porca at the bottom, and it holds the mutande. So this is kind of like the basic elements of the mbira. Sometimes, a lot of times, you have a resonator. Sometimes the resonator is made out of fiberglass. Other times it's made out of wood, depending on the kind of mbira that you're playing. And this resonator further amplifies. It's like a second amplification system for the sound waves. The resonator collects the vibration from the wooden board, and it amplifies and spreads them organically. And yeah, I would say these are the kind of the basic physical elements of ambira.
Thank you so much, Muha, for that insight into the physical attributes of what the Mbira looks like. So this next segment is an interesting one. We're going to be talking about the types and the different regional variations of this Mbira. Aliddeki call it the Akogo. Muha had a different name for the one found in Mozambique. Can you tell us about the variation of these instruments found across the continent?
You know what's funny? It's the same instrument. They give them different names. So in the eastern part, in the Teso people, they call it the Akogo or Lukeme. And what's funny is when it just crosses like 2 meters, the next region to the Basoga, since Uganda has a lot of 53, 56 languages, so all these are tribes, and every tribe has how it calls it. So it slopes down to the Basoga, and the Basoga call it Endongo. And the tuning is also different. That's the only difference. That the Kogo from the Lokeme by the Teso people, they play it differently. They have a whole set of seven imbiras from the smallest to the biggest. Then the Basogas come and call it Endong with a different tuning. The Mbira crossed to Uganda, and they also called it Endongo ya Feyiyo. So they also call it Akogo or Endongo from the Bagandas. Then it crosses and it goes to the northerners. They call it still Lukeme. So there are different names, but different tunings. That's the only different tunings, different playing, but same instrument and different names.
Quite interesting. So, Muha, can you give us your perspective on regional variations of this instrument? I know you mentioned earlier about the one from Mozambique. Can you give us insights on other types that can be found across the continent?
Yeah, sure. A very famous kind of popular mbira that actually Master Stella Shiweshi plays is the Mbira Zavadimu. So here in Southern Africa, the Mbiras that I know, like Aliddeki said, they're all kind of the same concept, but what changes is the number of tines, the number of keys. And different regions have different mbiras that have different number of keys, and how they arrange the notes, the scale is where it differs a lot. So for example, in Zimbabwe, a very popular mbira is the mbira dzavadzimu, that is played actually by Master Stella Shiweshi. And then in Mozambique we have mbira dzavandau, we have mbira vashopi, we have mbira nyunga nyunga. These are kind of like Mbira Vavatswa of the Tsonga people. So here what is happening is it's the same technology with the soundboard and the tines, but what is changing is the number of keys. Like Mbira Nyunga Nyunga has 15 tines. Mbira Davadim, if I'm not mistaken, has 26. um the Matepe has something like 32, if I'm not mistaken, and the organization of the tines is different. So a lot of times, if I can play, for example, Mbira Nyunga Nyunga, and I pick up a Mbira Zavadzimu, I will need some time to figure out how the Zavadzimu works, because the arrangement of the keys is different. It's like picking up a guitar and that is stringed for a left hand person, you know, all the strings are kind of inverse, so you have to kind of figure out how to get those sounds that you know on this new configuration of keys. And furthermore, inside of these specific kind of mbiras, you have also different tunings, and the tunings can change so much how the mbira sounds when you play. A very popular tuning is the Nyamaropa tuning. This sounds a lot like the major scale, the Ionian tuning, and a lot of Davadzimu mbiras are tuned to this specific scale. But then, for example, you have something like the Ngandanga tuning, the Mavembe tuning, which sounds a lot like the Phrygian scale. You have that flat second, flat third, um, normal fifth, and then flat six and flat seven. So by flattening these notes, you get a very specific sound, very dark, very minor, and it produces a very particular kind of sound when you play the mbira. If you take a song that you know in the mbira Nyamaropa tuning, and then you play it in the Mavembe tuning, it's going to sound like a whole other song, but it's the same pattern, it's the same song you're playing, but it sounds totally different. So I think the big difference starts coming from the different regions when you start changing the number of keys and the configuration of those keys.
With this explanation, it's safe to say that the only difference between the different variations that we find across Africa is just the number of keys, the tuning, and then also the name they are given. So my next question is to Muha. Can the Mbira played as a solo instrument, or must it be in an ensemble? And what are the accompanying instrument that can be paired with this magical instrument?
Yeah, so when I was learning to play mbira, my then friend and master at the time, he always said something I kept in my heart, and he told me, you can play the mbira, but if you just play the mbira by itself, it's not complete. At least you must sing. So I would say that the first kind of accompaniment that you play on the mbira is your voice. You would play the mbira and sing along to it. Of course, this sound can grow. Instrument that is very kind of common in Mbira music is the hosho or the shaker. This kind of like this instrument provides kind of like the pulse, the beat where the rhythm of the Mbira music can flow from. Furthermore, I mean, you can traditionally you can play it with percussion, you can play it with other instrumentalists, with other mbira players. I have not heard mbira being played with timbila. Timbila is this kind of like xylophone instrument that we have in Mozambique. I've never seen this kind of cross between traditional instruments like mbira and timbila. But I've seen, for example, mbira and bass. Like there's this traditional one-string bass that the ethnomusicologist, Professor, um, his name is escaping me now, but he's this fantastic lecturer, professor, ethnomusicologist from Mozambique, and he recreated this traditional one-string bass using a box and a string, one string, and it almost sounds like a double bass, but a single string double bass. And I've heard the mbira beat being played with this instrument, with guitar, with keys, piano. I myself, my journey into music started not from like a traditional kind of folkloric African music. I started as a producer, electronic music producer. And at a point in my life, I was still very young, at around maybe 15 or 16, I came across the Mbira, and it completely changed my relationship to music. I started seeking for more of these organic sounds. And through exploring the Mbira, I started mixing it with my electronic music that I had been doing. So I personally, I love how the Mbira sounds together with my synthesizers and my drum machines. Um, yeah, so I guess there are no rules. I think the great thing is about having fun and allowing yourself to experiment and try new things. I've seen Mbira being played on its own, and it sounded beautiful and very moving. And I've seen Mbira being played as well with electronic instruments, and it still is powerful and moving. So I think there's also a lot that we can explore. I wonder, for example, what Mbira would sound like with a kora. I think they would make a beautiful ensemble of instruments
Hmm.
together.
Yeah.
I wonder what Mbira would sound like with ngoni. So I think there's so much that we can still explore and do with the instrument.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to what the Mbira will sound with Kora instruments and also Ngoni. Thank you so much, Muha. Must have heard about the kalimba created by British ethnomusicologist Hugh Tracy. What's the difference between the kalimba and the Mbira, Muha?
Mm. Yeah, I think the concept of the mbira is what inspired the kalimba, and this the where you have the wooden resonator, the wooden board, and then you have the bridge and the keys. But what changed from the kalimba of Hugh Tracy's that he made it a chromatic instrument, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he made it a chromatic instrument that has all of the notes in the scale. One thing about Mbira is that when you have Mbira in a specific key, an arrangement of notes that you are kind of bound into, and those notes, like Aliddeki mentioned earlier in the podcast, it's similarly to a pentatonic scale. The Mbira Nyunga Nyunga specifically, it has a pentatonic +1. So it has the sixth degree, if I'm not mistaken, extra. So it has almost all of the notes of the major scale, but it doesn't have all of the notes. It's not chromatic, so you can't go from C to C sharp to D. The Mbira, one of my Mbiras that I have, it's in D. So the scale goes from it's in F. So it goes from the tonic to the third, and then it goes 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3 on the left side. 4, 5, 6 on the right, and 1, 2, 3 on the left side. So the kalimba, if from what I understand, it has all of the notes in the scale, almost like a piano. So it's making it more kind of like able to play those Western kind of songs where you have all of the notes and you can explore harmony more. Mm, yeah, that's what I understand of the kalimba. I've never played one, but I've seen a lot of people on YouTube, for example, do covers of popular songs with that instrument. And it's easy, or relatively easy, to do that with that instrument because it has all of the notes. On mine beta, I don't have the fourth degree of the scale. It's just not there. It's not a part of the music that Mambira makes. So I think that would be the biggest difference between those two, from what I understand.
Thank you so much, Muha. I think I also agree with the Tracy trying to adapt the Mbira to play more Western sounds. Aliddeki, I would really love to hear your thoughts on the difference between the Kalimba and the Mbira.
Yeah, so I think Moha has really elaborated it very well. Now let me give a difference between all these instruments. The only difference with the Ugandan akogo is it remained pentatonic, those the five notes, and the beauty or the difference with the mbira and other instruments is we only have. It's very funny. We have there are eight. Yeah, there are eight of them. We don't have 19 or 17 tuning different note. No. We just have those five, but we split them differently. Let me say the testals tune like do mi sol la do, and then the baganda tune it do mi so do. Uh, that's the only difference, but they still tune pentatonic everywhere. That's the difference with Mbira. Mbira, it has there's one I recently heard. It's played in moods. It's tuned in moods. Then there's another instrument of late. It's in chromatic. The only difference is with the Ugandan one is still staying with a traditional way of tuning. I should say the pentatonic scale. It has no modes, it's just static. And all of the traditional Ugandan instruments, all of them used to be tuned in the pentatonic scale, apart from the adungu that has really changed to diatonic of late. But the rest, the flute, the xylophones, the 80% of the traditional Ugandan instruments are all tuned in pentatonic.
Thank you, Aliddeki, for that. Thank you, Muha, also for your contribution in explaining to our listeners the difference between the Kalimba and the Mbira or the Akogo from Uganda. Welcome back. So for this last segment, we'll be talking about Mbira's place in contemporary music. Aliddeki, you made mention on the Akogo being in the center of the Akogo dance, Lukeme. Can you shed more light on the genres, whether local, traditional, where these Mbira sounds are prominent?
Traditionally, as I said, the instrument features a dance called Lukeme. And also of late, the Baganda, that's the Buganda Kingdom, has also, it's now using it. In the world of fusion, the Lukeme has really been in 90% of the music now that is ongoing. Um, I remember when I was still in school, even in the jazz band class, I used to play the akogo and it sounded so nice. And now, mostly right now, it's standing a lot in the world music scene and also the mainstream scene, whereby now musicians like Navio, the hip hop musician, working with me, and he's now creating albums through these akogos.
Hmm.
And also me as a person, I'm also using it since I'm a fusion musician and Afro jazz musician. I'm also still using these sounds. Maybe now we have been amplifying it. That's the only thing that we have started running away from the tradition. But because the modernization is going on, and if you want these instruments to fuse in these upcoming genres and whatsoever, we need to a little bit stretch to the point of maybe amplifying the instruments. And also even in classical music, we are featuring a lot of traditional instruments, mostly the Congo in classical music of late. Christmas carols that are going on in Uganda, you find a full place of just people playing the Kogos in the place. And yeah, that's how I can say that the Congo has really influenced people. And now of late, I also saw some writers in Uganda. They are learning Akogo poetries and now playing Akogo. Like really happy that now the Akogo is becoming a problem in a positive way in the country. And it's not only the Akogo, but traditional music naturally with the rhythms and everything. And because it's a rhythm instrument, at a point people tend to vibe with it. So I think that's one of the reasons why it has gone very far in the Ugandan scene of music. That's how I would say. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Agideki. Also, to mention, I came across a Christmas carol music played with the Mbira this last Christmas, and it was very interesting because it sounded so nice and so African. So, thank you so much, Agideki, for bringing that to our attention. Muha, so from a producer's perspective, how has Mbira evolved in modern music? I also hear the Chimurenga music is an adaptation of the Mbira sound with contemporary instruments. So how has the Mbira fared in modern music?
Yeah, at least here in Mozambique, Mbira has also, over the past few years, has seen many more people picking up the instrument, and in all kind of spectrums of the musical landscape in Mozambique. We have a very popular, um, not folk, it's like a Marabenta singer. Marabenta is kind of like the popular music in Mozambique. His name is Stuart Sukuma. And recently, or maybe 2 or 3 years ago, he started learning to play dambira, and now it's a key instrument in his kind of ensemble of Marabenta music. He's been really uh, kind of like, preserving the instrument and being a very big energy, a big force in informing and educating people about this instrument because of his reach. So Stuart Sukuma is doing a lot of wonderful work. We have younger people as well, incorporating the mbira with like traditional music, but made in an electronic style, like the shoppy music, like the rhythms of Ngalanga dance music, fusioned with mbira. We also have some people, the Tonga people, in putting Mbira in like the Makoyela music, modern Makoyela music. So I mean the instrument is kind of like in this world where it's being bringing the past, bringing our heritage, but also like reaching out for future sounds and what can the future of music in Mozambique sound like by honoring our traditional rhythms, but using the mbira and other more contemporary kind of composition styles. I've seen the mbira being used in like mm, kind of pop, some like pop R&B, modern R&B scenario. It sounds very, very beautiful. If I've heard Mbira, I myself, I compose musical scores for nature and environment films using the sound of the Mbira. And it just fits so beautifully. In my other work as well, I'm using the Mbira in my electronic music, where, like I said before, the Mbira is this very rhythmic percussive instrument. So when you mix this rhythm, this melodic rhythm with an interesting groove, it really does something. You can create this kind of almost um almost like hypnotizing melodic rhythms. So I think the mbira has a lot of space to be explored in contemporary music. I've heard other musicians using it in a Afro jazz scenario, um, and even in sound design. I have a friend who his sole kind of research with the instrument is using a freeze pedal, like he plays the mbira to a pedal and he freezes one note, and then this note creates a drone, and over this drone he starts looping vocals, and once he's done with the vocal kind of harmony building, he will begin playing the mbira on top of that. It's very kind of contemporary, very avant-garde, but it sounds beautiful, and it's a different new perspective of listening to the mbira that I hadn't heard before. So yeah, there's a lot of work being done in Mozambique. Like Aliddeki said, the mbira is becoming a problem, but in the best way. A lot of more people are picking up the instrument and exploring its potentials.
Technology has played quite a role in the advancement of music, and I'm glad to see the Mbira making waves and having a footing on modern African music. Thank you so much, Muha. Thank you, Aliddeki. Thank you guys for sharing your thoughts and experience on the Mbira with us today.
Thank you, Kosiso. Thank you, Aliddeki. It was a wonderful chat. Thank you for making this space.
Thanks to our listeners also for tuning in. Join us next time on African Instrument Studies for more exploration of the African musical instruments. This episode was brought to you by the African Music Library. Subscribe to our podcast on Just Play Music and follow us on our social media at AML by Just Play. Thank you for tuning in.